good to be back again here on Breakfast Central on a Tuesday morning. If you enjoyed the show yesterday, and of course, I did get all the latest stories. Well, let's tell you that today it's going to be a double one. Yes, because it's Tuesday, so it's day 2 and it's double. My name is Joe Hansen, by the way.
You're very dry.
Yeah.
Double one, Tuesday, double.
Double, like day 2.
Wow.
2, double.
Too dry.
I love what you're wearing. I mean, sophisticated men like us won't call it green or blue. This is teal, right?
Yeah.
You're wearing teal so you can steal our hearts. And you've really done that.
What is wrong with these two men? Good morning. Good morning to our audience. Thank you for joining us again. Benga and
you
Joe
should be
are
happy
on the
that
road.
you're in the middle of fine wine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're wearing a wine jacket.
Did you see what I did there?
Hey.
No. We're going to have a great show today. I can see that my co-anchors are in their element. They're popping. They're popping heavy. Antenna popping on maximum frequency.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for joining us. Benny, please, I need coffee. Thank you to everyone for joining us. For the next 3 hours, we are going to be exploring some of the biggest stories on Breakfast Central. We're excited, and we can't wait for you to share your thoughts. You know, when we open the phone lines during the newspaper review, I am Olive Emodi.
And I'm Benga Aboroa. You're welcome to Breakfast Central. We give you a dose of your morning coffee. The best things you need to start your day right here on Breakfast Central. Insightful discussions, the latest news, fantastic analysis, a bit of humor here and there. Just a potpourri of what you need to start your day right. I mean, you've made one of the best decisions you'll make today by tuning into Breakfast Central.
Absolutely. Well, let's start off with the wake-up conversations this morning. It's got to do with the tariff hike. We're back again. There's a new tariff hike that's coming. According to the federal government, the Minister of Power has spoken, and I'm sure he also presented that at the FEC, that's the Federal Executive Council meeting that was held yesterday and chaired by the #1 citizen, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So there's going to be a new tariff hike, bottom line, and Nigerians should be ready to pay more.
For what?
Tariff hike.
Electricity.
Yes, electricity. It's been said that there's going to be no more subsidies on electricity, because what is happening currently is that the federal government is subsidizing electricity for those who are in band B, C, and so on.
So everybody now has to move to
now
band
everybody
A.
has to move to band A. No more.
Would you provide the
and
electricity?
So on.
The band A type electricity?
So to be honest, I think that it's pretty unfair to say that people in band B, band C, band D then have to move to band A. Even the banding system is in some way
discriminatory.
Exactly, very discriminatory. It's just basically giving people what they're deserving of, what their entitlements are, but saying that they have to earn it. And then you're now segregating people in different classes in society. And everywhere around the world, several facilities are subsidized for the citizens.
Exactly.
Can we afford it? Can we afford another increase? Whilst we're talking about tariff hike with electricity, internet provider, tariff hike, just which day ago did I load my airtime? It's finished. Everything, the hike is hiking.
You know, like Olive rightly said, we have gotten up to this level.
No, we have not. No.
I mean, even former minister is complaining. You saw the deputy governor of Lagos State complaining. So if people at that level are complaining, imagine what the ordinary Nigerian is going through. This is not sustainable. And what is most annoying about this is a nation that is blessed with abundant sunlight, wind. The entire southern coast is the Atlantic Ocean, so you can harness waves. There's also gas. We have one of the largest gas reserves in Africa.
Gas flaring.
And then we're burning this gas, we're flaring gas. It's ridiculous that the minister thinks the best way to provide electricity is to squeeze more from Nigeria's pocket. Let's think about redeveloping our energy mix. Let's do something about gas, and also the transmission pattern. No, we need to be more efficient and forward-looking when it comes to dealing with our electricity problems. Not all problems are financial. We just need the political will and the resolve to do something about it, because it's ridiculous. No, but I mean, I personally can't pay more for electricity.
I kind of like agree with you, Benga. I mean, you've made these salient points. You've highlighted the fact that it's coming at a very tight time. But I think the biggest problem with what we are going through, I was analyzing it this morning on my way to work, and I said to myself, this is a case of saying a father and a son. The son all of a sudden has a deep cut, on his arm, and you have blood gushing. It's coming out, and it's not too good. What does the father do? Administer first aid, but it's not looking like that. Rather, the father says, don't worry, let the blood keep coming out. At some point in time, it would stop and it would dry out. That's exactly the best way I could define what the federal government is currently doing. How do I mean? Nigerians are bleeding in the sense that the tariff hikes that are coming from different aspects of living is way too much. Olive did mention one that came from the telcos. We're still battling with data. Data is very expensive.
My data just finished last night, and I was so
surprising.
upset.
We haven't even gotten the hang of that.
We need to invest.
We've not gotten a hang of that yet. Now you have the fuel subsidy. As far as I'm concerned, the fuel subsidy is one of the most ridiculous prospects I've ever seen, in the sense that today you're buying fuel for 900 naira, tomorrow they tell you it's 870, tomorrow they tell you, oh no, it's 920. It keeps going back and forth. Whether you like it or not,
to market forces.
Whether you like it or not, you just peg your spending, and at the end of the day, you're spending way too high.
See, the truth is,
that's not all. You still have the educational one. Parents, have you seen what the schools are doing now? The school fees is high. In short, just to use the school transportation, you are paying exorbitant so high that you have to start rethinking, okay, maybe I might have to start saying, look for a school that is close by or something. It's very expensive. We are not done with that yet. The banks, I don't know if you guys have seen the new charges from the banks recently, and nobody's talking about it yet.
Thankfully, my bank said they covered the charge. My bank sent an email to us saying,
talk about your bank.
I have to plug you because my bank said they are covering the charges.
I got alerts. I mean, all of a sudden, once it's month end, of course, the bank removed their charges, maintenance. I still wonder what maintenance fee has to do with banking.
Of course, they have to maintain.
Because what are you using ATM maintenance? There's one.
They're using AC to cool your money.
There's one of the banks. I'm angry this morning because there's one of the banks where they take money. They say ATM maintenance. I don't have ATM for that account.
So what are you maintaining?
And I said, please, I don't use ATM for this account. Why are you taking the money for what? And they said, oh, and so on and so forth. Then sometimes, so Nigerians we have a barrage of problems that we're dealing with individually. That's why these days you have to be careful when you talk to people. If you say good morning and they say, how are you?
Everybody's
body is vibrating, it's hot.
People are angry.
But like I said, Nigerians have not gotten there. We love it.
No,
we don't love
we love it.
See, let's not lie.
We love it, because if we don't love it,
let's not lie, let's not thief. It's a very tough time to be in Nigeria now, because you ask yourself, when are we going to get a break? It feels like every day is one layer of discomfort over another layer of discomfort. Joe and Benga have succinctly explained what the challenges are. As single people, as married people, it just feels like we don't get a break. Electricity hike right now is not welcome. There are those who have started to call for the resignation of the Minister of Power, asking what exactly is he doing if the essence of a government is to guarantee a decent quality of life with as much as possible minimum difficulty. But it feels like we are not even getting the decent quality of life, and Nigerians are experiencing maximum difficulty. It's not funny.
The way we're going is like people will start renting house and tell them that don't worry about electricity, it's okay, just remove me from
National Grid.
Because it's becoming ridiculous.
And then the solar panel, they don't want to ban the solar panel.
Because electricity bills are becoming more expensive than house rent. I mean, that's just...
electricity bills, now you also want to ban solar panels. You see, let's be honest. The problem is not that you want to bring good policies. In short, the problem is not that you want to make transformative ideas come to life. The problem really is you are doing everything at the same time.
To squeeze.
Nobody does that. Let's even go back to the same analogy that's being used by the administration, that it's like surgery, and after some time it will heal. I also want to recount and ask, have you seen a woman who's about to give birth? She also has fibroid detected in her system. She also has a case of maybe she has, let's say, a hip surgery that she needs to carry out. At that same time, she also has another surgery in her ear.
But guess what? They will never do everything at the same time.
At the same time.
In fact, to do a surgery.
I mean, floating the naira and removing the subsidy. We saw the effect of that. We haven't even recovered from that. And then all this tariff and
it's too much. And that brings us to the second story, because let's just segue with that, since we're talking about the same thing.
Economy.
The AFDB boss who came out and said, oh, the way the economy is going, if you don't handle it carefully, what will happen is it's going to actually tank. It's going to crash. And then the SSA to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, of course, Mr. Bayo Onanuga comes out and says that Mr. Adesina is sounding like Peter Obi, like a politician.
Wow. You know, the way the government handlers are going, if the Pope should say something about this government that they don't like, they will respond to.
Yes, sir.
They will respond to anybody. What did he say that is sounding like a politician?
Well, he responded, he actually made a statement. Let me bring the story so that our viewers can also get the essence of it. He made a statement, I'm talking about Mr. Adesina, who is the outgoing AFDB boss. He made a statement and said that he analyzed Nigeria's economy and said the way the economy is going, there's a lot that's going to happen, and it's going to really impact heavily, especially on Nigerians, in a negative sense. Now, while he did that, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu gave a speech just a few hours ago, let's say possibly, I think it was yesterday or so, if I can recall. And in that speech, he said, now listen to what the president said. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a clip of that footage. He said he doesn't watch the news, he doesn't read the papers because he doesn't want anything that would distract him. But what he's doing is he's focused. And he wants to ensure that the policy works, that the way the country is going, the economy is turning around and it's at the corner.
Has turned the corner.
See, by the end of this administration, which is in 2 years, if we don't see, I don't know that.
That's if they don't win a second term.
Well,
as far as I'm concerned, the tenure is ending this year.
So, no, they have another 2 years.
Next year is all about elections.
Well,
there's nothing again.
If we don't see an improvement in the economy, and forget the semantics that they will give regarding, oh, we're making progress, and they start giving indices and numbers. Rome wasn't built in a day. Regardless of what the data and the numbers say, if it doesn't trickle down into the reality of the everyday Nigerians, then all that really is just hogwash. So we have 2 years. 2 years for this administration, the next 2 years, for us to be able to look at the quality of life of Nigerians.
If
Nigerians can afford the basics, all we're asking for is the barest basics, decent quality of life, just being able to afford electricity, transportation, and being able to feed. We're not even asking for luxury. We're just asking for the barest minimum.
Is there something in the water they drink in the villa? Because they seem very disconnected from the reality on the ground. Or their aides don't have people that are just regular citizens. Or the Minister of Power does not understand, he doesn't feel the pulse of the people on the ground that, look, these guys, they've had it up to here, and there's no, you squeeze everything you can squeeze out.
Nothing is coming out again.
And then how has the economy bent a corner? It would be nice to see data to defend this. But also the reality on the ground. Ordinary Nigerians, if you do a vox pop across all 6 geopolitical zones and you talk to everyday Nigerians, teachers, civil servants, small and medium enterprises owners, and you ask them about the state of the economy, I'm sure they won't tell you it's bent a corner.
They won't. They won't. And that's why you hear words that have emerged and is well used during this administration, where people use the word psychophancy. It's not in a way trying to, in other words, abuse anyone, but it's in a way of trying to highlight the fact that you cannot in any way have fire in your pants and then say, oh, no, it's not burning me. I'm cooling off. I'm doing fine. It's impossible.
Or impossible.
It's impossible.
That's the ostrich in the sand approach, where we're acting like everything is fine. And we need to stop this thing of when anybody comes out to say what is, then we
attack the person.
Negative.
We need to really calm down,
I'm
right?
sorry, it's
even the body language is bad.
Is reeking.
The body language is just like you're more concerned about the you're more concerned about the perspective or the impression or the image of the government as opposed to the reality. If you're coming to counter that, come and counter it with facts.
Okay,
exactly.
let's do it.
It's very lacking in empathy.
Hold on.
How do you mean it's beginning to sound
Hold
like
on. Let's do a check now. How much is a bag of pure water before you got into power? How much is it now? That's check one. Bread. We used to buy sliced bread for about 700, 800 naira. At some point,
now it's like 2,000.
It's about 2,200, 2,600. And then when people talk, you
I
say,
bought noodles yesterday
quiet.
on my way home.
They
I was craving noodles and I bought noodles. I feel like every time I want, you know this, it happens to me all the time.
You say,
so
like 50
I bought
times.
noodles and I haven't bought noodles in a while. Do you know that noodles has gotten to 400 for that small one we used to buy for 35 naira?
50, wow.
It is 400 naira now.
Welcome.
I mean, it just shows you. But I mean, we spoke with Mr. Daniel Brala on this set, and he said, you know, it's not fair to compare to the Buhari administration. That the comparison should start from after they floated the naira and removed fuel subsidy. So you compare Tinubu administration
to Tinubu administration.
They believe that's the fair comparison to make because we've made serious policy changes that will.
But I wonder, is it not the same political party?
Exactly.
There's a lot. If you're going to break it down, everyone would ask questions. Is it not the same political party? Is it not on the same plates that they all eat from?
I hope we have some cheerful news on Wake Up Conversations.
I really do hope,
anyway,
because it's not the nicest way to start the morning for us.
It's not, unfortunately, but it's just the reality on ground, especially when you hear that. And I'm sure this is not going to be the last tariff. There's going to be a new tariff. We're going to hear of a new tariff very soon. Let's say it here very quickly so that when it comes out,
I'm just pitying myself at my
we have told you that there's a new tariff.
Once these kind of things happen, my estate they'll just put a screenshot of the news headline in the WhatsApp group, basically saying, FYI, take notes.
But it's good. I mean, we look forward to having economists to definitely also help us look into this, look at the indices, most importantly, that indicate if Nigeria is getting out of the doldrums, or better still, we are sinking in. Because whether you like it or not, the World Bank has also come out to state that very, very soon that the poverty rate is increasing to about 3.8, 3.7%.
It would be nice for Mr. Nanuga to respond to
World Bank. Yeah. I mean, that's the same World Bank.
They would definitely never take that. You realize that when external bodies criticize the administration, it's almost like a pushback. The only time they respond positively is if they get positive comments. Once there's a negative criticism, they try to downplay it and make it look like it doesn't carry water. Again, regardless of what the numbers and the stats and the data is showing, if the life of the average Nigerian, if it doesn't trickle down to the life of the average Nigerian in the nearest future, then it will be safe to say that it has all been a failure.
All right, okay. Let's move on now to the next one. This time, a sitting senator who was under fire recently on the case of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan and also the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. She's come out. Her name is Senator Ireti Kingigbe. Now, in a video that circulated on social media, it showed her speaking to members of the press. In that interview, of course, while she was speaking, she said that Nigerian youths don't know how to move beyond complaints. She said that Nigerian youths actually are underestimating how much action they have. She also went ahead to say that the youths are complaining less on leaders, and in other words, the youths are actionless. They are not doing anything.
She says charging. They should move beyond social media to real life.
Yeah, she was charging the youths, in other words, and speaking about them and saying, you people are not doing anything. You people are just talk. It's basically like saying what we say, you're just keypad warriors, you know. Okay. Everybody just talks. That the youths, you know.
Don't worry, she's charging the youths, right?
Yeah, she's charging.
The youths have finished charging with Nokia charger today. They will see them on the streets of Abuja.
Hopefully.
Yeah, for VDM,
very dark
man, and other
very
things.
dark man. Yeah. So that's what she said. So I mean,
no, I don't totally agree with her. I think we have a vibrant youth. They're aware. They know what is happening, and when the opportunity comes, they'll express themselves peacefully. Remember what happened at NSAS and bad governance. It's that the problem is there's an atmosphere that doesn't allow Nigerians to carry out their constitutional right to protest. And the government has this hangover from the NSAS protest.
PTSD.
And PTSD, exactly. They feel something really bad is going to happen. So they really stifle protest and want protest to be reduced to the minimum. But the End Bad Governance Group from last year are saying like they've even tagged October's protest, upcoming protest. They're planning for October. They say it's the fearless protest, mother of all protests. So Ireti Kingbe should be on standby. As she's charging the youth, they're still charging.
So that means hopefully when we don't know when their batteries will be full.
Well, I think also we need to calm down on the narratives about Nigerian youths. I think that Nigerian youths are some of the most resilient youths anywhere in the world. We've been dealt an unfortunate hand. Unfortunately, the Nigeria that we have is not a Nigeria that our parents should have been proud of handing over to us. But we have taken a Nigeria that they themselves could not fix, and we've taken the situation that would otherwise have broken us, and we found a way to thrive in the midst of it. We've had young people who are telling stories, who are charting a new path. Look at, I don't want to start calling brands, but in the tech space, yes, off the top of my head, I think they're one of the sponsors for Jasiri. You think of certain brands and the opportunities that they're creating.
No government interference.
And it feels like the moment they even start to thrive, the moment they start to thrive, government is looking for how to exploit and extort them.
I mean,
young people are resilient, and we need to stop that narrative.
Exactly, and stop sweeping Nigerian youths with one.
Are they the ones that are of course?
People that have lived off government patronage. They've been in government circles since 1999. They've not earned 1 naira in the private sector. They've not done anything. Just living off government patronage.
There are politicians that have been inside the legislative house, season in, season out. It's almost like it's a never-ending series, giving Game of Thrones.
I mean, look at the Nigerian entertainment space, for example, and the amount of jobs they've created. Video editing.
And yet, remember that the government still wants to clamp that down.
Yes.
Can we even just talk about the fact that
you have to shoot
what have
music
you done
videos, you have to pay XYZ amount, you have to do this, you have to. Nobody's saying that you shouldn't tax a profitable sector. But the way you do it is you do it with a sense of understanding and duty that these youths need all the support they see. Living in Nigeria now is starting to look like one of the toughest ways ever on earth for you to survive.
Do you know people who call their friends in Nigeria, those of us that are still here? Don't you have friends outside Nigeria that ask you, what are you still doing there? And then you tell them, look, I love being here. I've never really thought about it. Everybody can't run away. There's some of us that, how far can you run? If you run with all your family members. So at the end of the day, there's some of us that believe in Nigeria, want to make the best of Nigeria. The least that we can get is support from the government, encouragement from the government. We shouldn't have that label and being whipped up, with that same brush like Benga had said, labeling Nigerian youths as lazy. Nigerian youths are not lazy. I can start to reel out a number of things that Nigerian young people have done. Nigerian young people have created opportunities for themselves. First of all, let's look at the entertainment industry. We have created multiple means of income. First, with YouTube, a number of young Nigerians have gone into movie production, thereby creating opportunities for other young people, finding out new stars, rising stars. A number of people have started to break free with YouTube because young people have taken the initiatives to create opportunities. Content creation is another space. A number of Nigerians, young people again, have found how they tell stories, they're creating opportunities, teaching master classes. Please.
And they're clamping that down very soon.
Aerospace, engineering, not just the entertainment space.
Check out the
robotics. It really does upset me when,
see the Nigerian who's making wave.
Lagos State government was quick to come out and boast about Dirty December and how much they made.
Is it
that
not Nigerian young
was
people?
Zero efforts from the government. It was, even in Dirty December, there were no street lights. The infrastructure was still bad. You think they would be shamed to make Lagos palatable for the amount of visitors we're making. No.
And then we're stuck in traffic.
And then somebody was giving the lawmakers idea that going forward
they should be taxing for
before you come to Lagos in December.
I wonder, that guy should not even,
from our nose?
We donate him to
Do we think through our noses?
Yes. You know when Terry G sang this song, I didn't know it was being prophetic.
Which song?
So many years ago. He didn't know that. I mean, we didn't know things were going to be so bad. But when Terry G sang that song, he knew what he was doing. You can only run.
Honestly.
I mean, everybody has jackpot now. So who's left? Terry G was telling us to run, because run for the future. Before you go run, man. You don't know that song? In your youth, I remember Joe growing up with
I
Joe.
know that song now.
We have Fanta out of this bottle. He used to be the first to win dancing chairs, musical chairs. He would just push everybody. He's now a gentleman. It's when Usman Dafodio. You fake.
Jokes apart, right? Just to say that to young people, are there young people who have maybe with their actions tried to paint us negatively? Oh yes. Are there young people who have engaged in fraud and are giving Nigerian young people, Nigerian youth a bad name? Yes. Are there young people who have hijacked, quote unquote, hijacked protest or being used as an instrument by politicians to manipulate elections? Yes. But that's not the larger population. The larger populace of young people are the ones that are making a change, making a difference in Nigeria, outside the country. Any country you see young people, Nigerian youths go to, they thrive, they excel in their education, in politics. They go there and they just make their mark. So young people were doing the work, and I want to say well done to every young person who's watching this. Young people are the ones who dared in 2020 to stand up against the government. They were the ones who dared to speak up and say enough is enough, we want a change. Young people are the ones who constantly put themselves out there, even at the risk of, the dissent being expressed in the most notorious ways. They still come out to protest, recognizing that protesting is their constitutional right. Peaceful protesting is their constitutional right. And just to add to what you said, Joe, nobody's saying that the government cannot tax. But when people start to see that as you're taxing, they're seeing the effect of the tax, and I think it'll be easier. You won't need to convince them too much, right? You can see, yes, there are people who try to evade taxation. However, when you're taxing, what is the tax being used for? Are Nigerians seeing the money being used for anything? Therein lies your answer.
Nothing. But
anyway,
we can go on and on and on and have this conversation in all glare and so on. But then again, you guys have mentioned the entertainment industry.
Agriculture.
I've spent better part of my life as well in these sectors. And I can tell you that till today, we still don't have a movie village. And you know that Nollywood is thriving, always
well, Kunle Afolayan has done something like that.
Who did it?
Kunle Afolayan. It wasn't any government.
And then you know what amazes me? When the same sector wins laurels and so on,
we jump on
you see the government, everybody
to
steps in and says, oh yes, and then we give bogus speech and flip our brother up and down and say, yeah. And then we make promises, political promises, empty promises. We're going to donate 3.4 billion. And people will shout, woo!
Can we also talk about the agri sector? Can we even talk about the agri sector? Because I've been involved in certain brands, that at the end of the day have to talk about agri. So we have young people who are doing work there, want more investment. This diversification we're talking about, we've been talking about it since I was little. Till today, we haven't been able to.
Post-harvest loss.
Because we don't have steady electricity, we don't have.
There's no value chain to process
transportation, to process this and to preserve it. But then we can go on and on about
today is a rant morning.
Yes,
so
it's a rant morning. We do usually best sometimes, and today
we just had to bring it out because of. If you spend so much from your pocket, sometimes you keep quiet, keep quiet.
My eye was red. I was doing transfers, I was doing some payments, and by the time I was done, my eye was red. So if I'm ranting, yes, I was like out and in. You're looking at it, and it's not matching. Anyway, let's share our top stories this morning before we get too angry. This morning on Breakfast Central, federal government hints at fresh electricity tariff hike, and we constantly kick against it. We do not want it. Presidency follows Adesina's remark on Nigeria's GDP. Again, is he saying the truth? Are we just trying to paint a picture? Rivers crisis. National Assembly urges court to dismiss PDP governor's lawsuit. Kano government releases 4.8 billion naira for community projects. And we reviewed the newspaper front pages and opened the phone lines for you to join us at that time. Join us for all these and more on Breakfast Central. Welcome back. In what is being described as a significant move to ensure equitable distribution of development projects and the dividend of democracy to citizens at the grassroots level, the Kano State government has released the sum of 4.8 billion naira to 484 elected councillors from the 44 local government areas of the state. The governor, Abba Yusuf, during a meeting with the councillors, informed them of the state's government's plans to implement projects at the grassroots level that will have direct impact on the well-being of the residents of the state. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu brings more in this report.
These ward councillors, numbering 484, are from the 44 local government areas of Kano State. This meeting with the governor, Abba Yusuf, is the first of its kind and has been converged to initiate inclusive development at the grassroots. The roofing is damaged, no chairs to sit, the paint is faded. Then it's your right, your responsibility to write and inform these infrastructures fixed. While emphasizing the importance of the ward councillors to grassroots development, the governor took time to clear the air over alleged misinformation making the rounds about the leader of the Konkosia movement and former governor of Kano State, Rabiu Musa Konkoso. He dismissed the allegations by the former secretary to the state government, claiming that the former governor demanded 2 billion naira from the state coffers. He described the allegation as a height of political mischief, desperation, and dishonesty. He lacks intelligence, he lacks wisdom. How can you say the leader instructs the governor that every month he must be given 2 billion? This is madness. You have been in government for long and you didn't say a word. Just because you were fired, you cook up these lies. You are a big liar. I am saying that you are a liar. Rabi Musa Konkoso is not a cheat. The governor says that projects expected to be implemented at the grassroots level at the cost of 4.8 billion naira include renovation of schools, drilling of boreholes, building of dispensaries, and award of local scholarships, amongst others. We have earmarked 4.8 billion for these projects. Your Excellency, you have increased the salaries of legislators, you have increased the salaries of civil servants, and you have even increased the salaries of pensioners. Thank you. Governor Yusuf tasked the councillors to come up with proposals of projects to be implemented in their localities that will have direct bearing on the lives of the people. In Kano for News Central, Emmanuel Bagudu.
4.8 billion naira released for local community projects sounds like a good idea on the surface of it, but several things to note would be: one, what are these projects? Is there a timeline to these projects? are there ways by which you can safeguard the implementation of this project and hold the government to account where the government has fallen short of implementation standards? Those are some of the areas to consider. Quality assurance, looking at, how the government then ensures that they intend to maintain these facilities in the long term, because we do realize that we have a maintenance problem. We have a problem with our maintenance culture here in Nigeria. So the sustainability of it are some of the areas to consider.
And also implementation, like you rightly highlighted, is one thing to promise. It's another thing to deliver, and it's easier to make promises on paper, but deliver. And after delivering, it's good to maintain those facilities and projects that have cost a lot of taxpayers' money to put up in the first place. So, yeah.
All right. Well, so we will continue to follow up with Kano State and to see the progress reports we have regarding these community projects. Also, we hope that education is prioritized, security is prioritized, that we're having a number of security operatives deployed to a number of the schools to ensure there is a guarantee for their safety and their security. But we'll continue to bring updates regarding this. And that's all that we have for now. We'll go on a break, and when we come back, Joe Hansen brings you Drawing Board.
All right, guys, so we're back this morning on Breakfast Central. Well, we started off early in the morning, taking a look at our wake-up conversations, which indeed dovetailed into the current situation with the Minister of Power, who has said that you should brace up for more and more spending, which simply means that the electricity tariff hike is one that would, whether you like it or not, would influence your pocket. Positively, negatively, I don't know about the first, but of course the later is for certain. I mean, Oliver Benga here, so let me just quickly run through what we'll be looking at, guys. Earlier on, we did talk about the recent tariff hike, and we looked at it with the current administration and what Nigerians are spending their money on. But if we take a look at the drawing board now, we just dropped a list of about 4 of them. Let me take this one out so you can see this, and possibly we'll get to add as we proceed. The first one there is the electricity tariff hike. That's the first one that Nigerians have to spend. And we're going to benchmark this with the, the well-celebrated and most, highlighted, what would I call it? The most highlighted achievement by the federal government, which is the 70,000 naira MW, which stands for minimum wage. Now you have electricity tariff hike coming. For those who are on band A, they do understand that they pay so much. Now initially, the federal government says that you were paying 88.2 per kilowatts, but now you'll be paying 116.18 kilowatts. That's what they said you'll be paying. We're going to put that in calculation terms. So let's just take a look at where Nigerians will be spending their money very, very soon. 1, electricity tariff. 2, telco. And we're talking about, when we talk about telco, we mean, simply put, guys, data. Data is no longer affordable like it used to be, if you look at that. Then number 3, the bank tariffs. I don't know if you should call it tariff or bank charges better, the bank charges. The charges are becoming too exorbitant. It's back and forth, it's back to back. People are spending so much just to maintain an account, and then it gets you thinking if you need to really spend that much just to maintain one account. What if you have like 4 or 5? In the case of Olive and Benga, sometimes you might.
You still with him?
I'm sure you guys don't have one bank account. I mean, Benga is not. I think Benga has about 4 or 5.
Is it by having 4 and 5? 4 or 5. I don't have it up to 4 and 5. Secondly, is by how much is inside.
Exactly.
So I mean, take a look at that. Then we also have healthcare. Now, I'm going to focus on healthcare later on this week. We need to talk about the healthcare sector. Just in case we do not know this, the price and the cost just to take care of your health, let's put it that way, has indeed gone up. So we're putting this out there. We want you to react to it. So go on our social media page, tweet us. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment on YouTube. If you are indeed watching from Facebook or Meta, as fondly called, go ahead and tell us which of these, achievements or hike in prices is really affecting you. Let us know. Is it the electricity tariff that is about to go up, Or better still, is it the telco, the cost for data that you're spending? Because it seems that for those who are spending data, we're going to narrow down on either of these later on this week. We'll take them one by one. But for now, we just want to highlight, and we want you to comment. We want you to talk and tell us where your money is really going to. I also forgot to mention that we can now currently add the number 5, Benga, which, of course,
I mean, that's the most important
food.
thing.
Yeah.
And statistics has said that, carried out by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, that household income, this is that the highest need of most households, they spend more on food. So
Absolutely.
It's very critical.
Yeah.
And if you don't eat, you can't be allowed to use data or go to the bank or go to the hospital or even
worry about
use electricity to watch Premier League. Yeah.
Nice one. So tell us, these are the top 5. Electricity, telecom, bank, healthcare, and not forgetting to food. Which of these, in what order, in what particular order, are they actually impacting on your pockets? We really want to know. And hopefully we'll take a look at that at the end of the show, what Nigerians are indeed talking about, especially looking at where their monies are going to. So this is it. Hopefully later on in the course of the week, we'll also take time to analyze them one by one and see how they heavily impact on your pockets. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we would be talking to a guest, and the conversation is one that you should be part of. So we'll do us a favor. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The federal government has communicated a possible hike in electricity bill, and many Nigerians are not having it. Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu stated at a meeting with Generating Companies of Nigeria, GENCOs, the chairman in Abuja, that citizens must pay the true cost of energy, citing the government's inability to sustain subsidies. This has already caused a backlash as the National Association of Nigerian Students have asked Adelabu to resign, labeling the proposed hike as insensitive and out of touch with reality. Joining us this morning to discuss this development is the National Coordinator for the All Electricity Consumers Protection Forum, Adeola Samuel Ilori. Good morning, and thank you for joining us, sir.
It's my pleasure to be here. Good morning.
This potential hike or possible hike comes as a shock to Nigerians with such great displeasure. But would you say that, it's a hike that we cannot possibly, avoid, that is something that has to happen?
It's quite disheartening that we have government that is so insensitive, very, very. I have no apology for saying that. And when it comes to the issue of electricity, I'm grounded. I'm an authority, so to say, because my group synergizes with all stakeholders, DISCOs, NED, GENCOs, and NEC particularly. We partner with NEC to come out with so many policies and all kind of, For me, I just believe that what should concern any reasonable government, any reasonable leader, is how to move our generation forward. I'm talking about the megawatt, not about belaboring the poor masses with a phantom increase in tariff. I'll go back to the memory lane. The first increase that was made during the period of this privatization was February 3rd, 2016. The then Ministers of Power, Fashola, said that this is what we call cost-reflective tariff. And he called it a bitter pill that we have to take. And within the Wigma ruling, around that time, we took them to court. My friend Yemi Adebiyi and myself and others, we took them to court, and we won fair and square. Justice Mohammed Naos of the Appeal Court said, Justice Mohammed Idris of Court 7, Federal High Court, Ikoyi, as he then was, said, this is criminal. Criminal in the sense that they always neglect every process they themselves have marked to follow, in which will sabotage or perhaps subsumed that power of oneness that they want to use without considering it. The section 76 of section 2 paragraph B of the then law was so clear. The process, they circumvent those processes, and we went to court and we won. Knowing government for who they are, they refuses to obey. That was when tariff was increased to 21 naira 30 kobo for the residential at that time, and 30-something naira for the commercial. You know, tariff are categorized. Industrial has their own, commercial has their own, residential 1 and 2. Residential 1 doesn't exist, it just exists in their own book, but residential 2, commercial 1, commercial 2, industrial. Those are the categories of tariff that they have as at then. And now, we are doing that. Even the judgment was still very subsisting, even till now, because the judgment of Justice Idris was that henceforth, any increase must go and must be fulfilled by that provision before that reform law was taken over by the new Electricity Act. And the same Electricity Act was not unambiguous, for the fact that Section 116 was also clear as to the process they had to go through. And be that as it may, they went through that process last year, or is it 2023? I was part of the process in Abuja with the NEC and all the discourse, which signified they had to defend the reason why they want the increase. At the end of the day, for whatever it was, knowing them that they are going to also play to the gallery, they release the increase in tariff, in which in that increase in tariff, they call it January 2024 MITO tariff increase. And it stated there how the increase will take place and when subsidy will be removed. And between that January and April, in which they stated that the subsidy removal will come in 2025, in which the so-called Band A. Don't let's all forget that in 2020 November, they also increased tariff. They call it service-based tariff. You can see the nomenclatures of I'm twisting that they are putting into it, from cost-reflecting to service-based tariff. And then that was when they come out with this band of a thing. Band A, Band B, Band C, Band D. And they said because it is what you use now that you will pay for.
What do you make of that band? The band categorizing everybody in bands. Is that appropriate, or do you think
that's why they call service-based tariff, meaning that it is the hour they serve you that you are going to pay for. It starts what? Yes, not even pay as you go per se. Like if they are to serve you 5 hours, then you are entitled to the price. Not that pay as you go. You are entitled to this price or cost per unit. If you are to pay above that, you are to use above that, you are entitled to this. And that's how the caricature put it together. We look at it from the angle of the fact that this does not even bring about equality, because the Constitution is clear about you cannot segregate. But we let it be because of the COVID-19 at that point in time. And then that was what we have been dealing with until January 2024, that they come out with another tariff which indicates that it is also cost-reflective tariff. And that cost-reflective tariff, they said, okay, they are removing subsidy. In removing subsidy, Band A will pay 139 naira. Band B will pay 129 naira. Band C, the same thing. The document is still with me, it's still with the court, because I'm coming to that. At the end of the day, by April 3rd, they come up with Band A, 225 naira. And they said that is to say that they have removed subsidy. And we told them, yes, I was part of this you brought out. I wouldn't have any excuse not to see it from the air. But this band of a thing is not only a cheat, it's a criminal thing for you to do. Why? Because the section 116 that I talk about has already stipulated how you can increase tariff. There's a regulations of the NEC also that stipulate how you can increase tariff. We have the MITO, we have the, which is major review, we have the minor review, and we have extraordinary review. That is paragraph 7, so paragraph 2 of that regulation released by NEC. They took that power from the Electricity Act of Section 116 that I just quoted. So for that purpose, you cannot increase Band A, and they went ahead and go ahead with it. Why? Because Nigerians have been so pummel that their docility is falling to sleep. So because you cannot do that, then we went to court against them. Okay. We're still in court.
And then they've done this one again.
Yes, and they are trying to do this one now.
Yeah. So who does the responsibility lie with? Because we're seeing that Nance is calling out the Minister of Power. Who exactly does the bulk of the responsibility in the failure of the power sector to be able to generate electricity for Nigerians? Where does the bulk of the responsibility?
Well, by law, Section 34, subsection 1, paragraph B says in Electricity Act 2023 as amended, give all the power, regulatory, supervisory, even at that, to NEC. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission is the sole body that has that power. The job of the Minister of Power is supervisory. Do you understand my point? So for me, it is the NEC in all the letters and the spirit of the Electricity Act 2023 as amended, rested by that Section 34, rested on NEC. So I can tell you for free that even the one NEC did the other time, they were coerced to do it. Because like I told you, we are partners. I have free access to NEC, the vice chairman, the chairman, to ask questions as to what they did wrong and what is not done. Because the reason why they asked for that partnership was because they knew what we have done, they knew what we can't do at all Electricity Consumer Protection Forum. So they decided to partner with all the CPG in electricity. So we give them ideas. We also, help them to formulate the area where we are seeing, because we are close to the consumer. So in that purpose, it is the NEC that I believe, but being the supervisory minister, it can only give them directive in which they have the power to advise, sir, by law, this is not possible. So I still don't know, like I said, when I read it yesterday, I just laughed that you are hitting one in your mouth, you have not finished eating it, and then you want to even suffocate yourself, because if the matter against the last one you did, still in court, in which we are expecting the ruling by May 2025, Federal High Court Ibadan, and you are talking about doing another one, that is taking the law and taking Nigerians for granted.
Who is the defendant in the suit you have in court?
NEC, of course.
Okay.
We don't have business with the disco. We don't have business with any other one. Like I said, Section 34 make it clear. NEC is the one.
I'm sorry, and just to further add, now, since you say you still have a court case with NEC,
yes.
What are the prayers?
The prayer is, number one, the so-called Banhe is a ruse. It cannot stand under the face of the law, because you cannot, because they claim it is minor review. By virtues of the provisions for the minor review, it says that before you can increase, you must have a 3-month notice from the discos. And then between that time, the same process that go for major review is what to go for minor review, consultation, publish in newspapers and all kind of things. But you just wake up in the morning and you do that, you cannot sustain it in the face of the law, and that is number one. They should squash it. Number two, we are asking that everybody that has been charged as a result of that illegality should be refunded, and we are also asking for perpetual injunction against NEC, never to do that again.
These are very tough prayers.
It's easy.
Many observers will say they are unrealistic. It will be unrealistic.
It's very, very realistic.
For you to be granted.
Yes, like I told you.
And the government will argue that they need some of these monies to.
They have their defense lawyers against us.
They say power is expensive.
It's expensive
everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So you need to pay what will reflect what is commensurable to what you're getting. So how do you now argue
unfortunately,
for investment in the power sector? How do you argue for improvement in electricity generation distribution?
Yes, unfortunately, yeah.
Tariff is not increased. Where are they going to get the money from?
Let me say this. Let me say this. It's just like the case of petroleum, where everything remains shrouded. Everything remains like ujuju. You don't know what it is. They just come out and say, hey, petrol is becoming 870 naira. Hey, petrol is becoming 600 naira. And everybody's paying. I have asked them, as close and as partners with NEC, I've asked, where is the template? We want to know the template. What the cost per unit that for that one megawatt that you have given to the discos. Do you understand my point? And as far as the law is concerned, I cannot, because you want to make profit and you are arresting people for cheating, for embezzling, or for diverting money, and now you are applying the same route, and you say you want me to look.
When is the next court case on this? Because it seems that
we are supposed to have, appear before Justice Agomo April 31st, but because of the holiday, you understand, so we couldn't go because of the Salah holiday. We couldn't go, so we are expecting new date very, very soon, this May, and we are going to finalize.
I want to go back to that, your prayer, the prayer you're asking the court that everyone who has been charged with the current ban system be refunded. How practical is that?
There's nothing unpractical about it. Let me give you an example. When capping method was released in 2020, February 20, by the NEC, due to our advocacies and pushed, based on the fact that the disco just estimate as they like. At the end of the day, the capping comes out, and the disco still continue in their unwholesome practice. We pushed to the point that the discos last year were sanctioned with 10 billion naira, going to be taken away from the source. That is, they have an escrow account with CBN where all the money we are paying, except for some other, one that some of the discos have make arrangement to collect without working for. This one goes straight to their escrow account, and they will deduct from the source. Why? Because from February 2020 to September of that year, they did not implement capping method, so we pushed for it. Just this year again, because we came back from workshop with NEC February 13. We went to Kaduna for such, and we discussed so many things. Try to appraise whatever may be that we have discussed in September, that how far or how good you people have been able to implement whatever suggestion we made. And we discovered that despite the fact that there were sanctions, 10 billion naira, they still continue with non-implementation of capping method. And therefore, they asked them this year to beginning to repay back every customer they must have charged without implementing the capping method, because the capping method now has been simplified, that is every month that it comes out to them, not that the one that comes once in a year and they have to spread used. But this time it's a monthly thing, so they just sanction them again. This year 628 million naira for each discos that failed to implement it.
Able to pay.
Of course, I told you they would deduct it from the source. But what I'm trying to say is, when it comes to paying back, if the court gives the order, the discos, the NEC has to direct the disco to pay the customer the same way they have been directed to pay back customers with the money they paid for meter. These are part of the advocacy we have been able to put forward, and it's working.
All right, let's look at the background of why the minister has said that they have to increase. He's talked about subsidies, and they can no longer go ahead and pay subsidies, and therefore they need to review this price, the money, so that Nigerians can eventually enjoy power. There are some parts in Nigeria, let's take Lagos for instance, where residents have said they don't even have, even despite the fact being on band A or B, they barely have power. How do we marry this with what the minister has said, and what are you looking at? Do you think for once Nigerians should also start getting prepared to really pay this money, or what advice would you rather give Nigerians?
Right, let me say this before I answer the last questions. Giving kudos to NEC, because I cannot take it away from them, because some of this policy, I'm also part of it. And in the wisdom of formulating that policy, our suggestions normally taken into consideration. Because if you ask me to be your partner in progress, and I give you your suggestions, and I saw that you are coming out with the directive for order, and I did not see part of whatever I might have given you as a plausible ways of making things work, and this is then I will not go with you again. So in fairness to NEC, when they come out with band A increase and none like that, September 2020 on this so-called service-based tariff, they said that any disco that cannot meet the hours should not only reverse back to the status quo, but they should compensate. You understand my point? They should compensate every customer before even reversing them back. And when this issue of band A comes, even though we were not consulted, they still input that into band A, saying that if you are being serviced with band A and they cannot meet up at least 1 week in a month, They should reverse you back and give you. And I can give you an example of myself. I was in Band B before in my office at Aguda Ogbade. And for so many times there, he was no lie. And I called the business unit manager of Ikeja. Madam, you don't give me life and you put me on Band A. I don't want it. And by virtues of that provision, please reverse back to me or every money that I paid in which you have shortchanged me. And they did. They credit my meter.
Because they know who you are.
And I told them again, Madam, you know you cannot sustain this. There is a provision that says if you cannot sustain me, you have violated it right away. Please reverse me back. I have the messages here. They reverse the whole area back to the normal place where they took us.
This is what Nigerians don't really know. You know, I mean, while we're just looking at the drawing board, we saw that electricity, we put electricity as number one because that is the new tariff that is it's about to come. But it seems like Nigerians don't really know their rights. I think that's what I'm getting from this conversation. We don't really know our rights from what is actually going on. If you say that you also have the rights to, maybe you need to break it down for us. What are some of the three major things? Let's just go with three that Nigerians, residents, consumers should know concerning this Band A, B, and C, especially when they don't get power.
Yes, number one, they don't transfer you to Band A without first informing you.
You see that?
I fought on behalf of so many communities on that.
See that?
Yes, I have a radio program where I enlighten people every Saturday on the basis of my advocacy, which is self-financed. I did it there every Saturday 4 to 5 p.m. Many people listen to it and they have become enlightened. But for the purpose of the elite that believe they can just keep quiet even though they are paying. This is it. You cannot be transferred to any band without being written to 1 month before. You must be carried along.
Can you reject it if you don't want to go there?
Sorry?
It's not in your power to reject.
It is in your power to do that if, number one, you consider the fact that you are not what? You see, I fought for Gijo community to the point that they put them in Band A, and I told the regional manager, how can you put these people in Band A? Some people are even building the house with themselves. You understand my point? Some people have only one curtain to partition their window, and you are giving them Band A. What do you expect them to use in that place? You understand my point? I have also did it for other community by communicating to the vice chairman, NEC, because that one has been a magnanimous person, very, very quintessential when it comes to issues that come from my own end, because for whatever it was, he knows I'm not a rabble-rousers. What I say I'm going to do, I'm going to do it. So I always painstakingly tell him, Oga, look at this order, you gave it. Look at this, what have you gave it. These discourse are not following him. And so I told him about the unilateral transferring people to Band A, because the discourse have now seen as more or less a cash cow for them. It does not matter whether they meet the criteria. That's why I call Band A fraud at the beginning when the thing comes, even before we went to court in May last year. I told them this is a fraud. Number one, you didn't consider the fact that what is our generation megawatts? Yeah. We are grouping between 3,500 and 4,000 megawatts to service 150 million, borrowing apology to the ministers of power, who said we are. I said, okay. I said, how did you want to meet up? Coupled with consistence and insistence grid collapse. How did you want to meet Band-Aid? At the beginning, they said it is just 12 million, 2 point something million people. But before this end of the last year, Band-Aid people must have run to 15 million. Either they meet
but if you talk to the minister, he will tell you, you need to pay up to enjoy these services. And that's why he's saying, take away the subsidy and let's pay more. Are there any other ways in which we can, because it's the tiring conversation, we've been on this since. Is there any other, yes. Let me land please, sir. Is there any other way we can have sustainable electricity for everyone so we can even industrialize without paying out of pocket? What happened to our gas? We're still flaring gas. Nigeria is blessed with abundant gas, sunlight. What happened to different energy mixes? There's solar for the presidential villa, but what happens to the rest of us?
Okay. The first thing I would say is this: get everybody metered. Get everybody metered. I don't need to buy as much as the petrol station wants me to buy. I buy as much as my pocket dictates. The petrol people is to use their meter to measure that price that I pay for. Are you getting my point? Let there be meter. Number two, the government have shown all the way how we can make power ready and available for everyone. I don't know if you are aware that I had an interview with so many newspaper media concerning the withdrawals of so many cheap blue chip company removing themselves. They are about 460 something.
From Nigeria?
Yes.
Why?
They remove themselves from the grid. They can't service them, and you are asking them. You know, such people, they call them MD customer.
So how do they get power?
They provide power for themselves.
With the solar and the alternative sources of income of electricity.
I can mention those big cheap company. And for those ones, they are about 60-something% of the core customer. They have removed themselves.
And what role does the electricity law, I think on a final note, the electricity law play in all of this?
The electricity law is more or less like a roadmap. It's a manual in which the NEC has to play his game and his role in the chapter. The regulatory directive is coming from the DISCO. That shows that is the laws of operation as far as the DISCO or every other stakeholder, even including consumers. Like we have Consumer Protection Regulation 2023. It stipulates every areas of the DISCO's operation, how they are supposed to carry it out, how they are supposed to deal with the customers, how they are supposed to respect and give right to the customer. It's not more or less like the laws of a landlord and tenant, in which give much more to the tenant, but landlord being the owners of the key to his house, we sometimes want to circumvent those laws, those rights. That's exactly what the DISCOs are doing. Trampling on the right of the consumer on many ways, disconnection, billing, and all kind of a thing. So if that is the only thing they can do, providing meter, and then this renewable energy of a thing is the real way for us to have sustainability and sufficiency. Right. The government must bring down the price of all the material. There are so many things that does not benefit us, in which the government give waivers. It gives waiver to churches that imported something to build their house. What nonsense is that? Bring waivers to this renewable energy material so that me and you can easily access it.
I mean, you're talking about bringing waivers, and the conversation is about banning solar panels. But that one is a conversation for another day.
Can you imagine that? So how do we want to be free?
Counterproductive.
They just don't want us to have the leverage of what dividends of
again just goes back to the conversation about whether the government is having empathy. If they're being
no, they don't have any.
Or they're being tone deaf to the crisis.
They don't have any.
Adiola Samuel Ilori, thank you for your time with us this morning.
Thank you.
This, is the start of our conversations, but you can always be a part of the conversation. Drop your comments in our chat box on YouTube. We'll take your comments as well live on TV. You can also tweet at News Central TV or tweet at us individually. We'll read your tweets on air before we wrap up the show. Let's now go on a break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at the AFD President's statement on Nigeria's economic growth figures, as well as the Presidency's reaction. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central here on News Central Television. The Presidency has strongly disputed claims made by African Development Bank President Akinwumi Adesina regarding Nigeria's economic growth since independence. Adesina, in a statement at the 20th anniversary of Chapel Hill, Denham, claimed that Nigeria's GDP per capita in 1960 was 1,847 compared to $824 today. But the Presidency, through the Special Advisor Adebayo Adelabu, has fired back, calling these figures substantive lies. According to official records, Nigeria's GDP in 1960 was $4.2 billion with a per capita income of just $93, not even $100. The Presidency argued that Nigeria's economic growth didn't take off until the oil boom the 1970s when GDP surged to $12.55, $12.55 billion in 1970 and $164 billion in 1981. But how does this affect Nigeria's economic trajectory? We'll be breaking down these figures as we determine how much growth Nigeria's economy is currently witnessing. Join us this morning to discuss all of this is Public Affairs Analyst Kalu Aja. Good morning, Mr. Kalu Aja. Thank you very much. Join us on Breakfast Central.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Financial Analyst Kalu Aja, thank you so much for joining us. The first question will be, was it necessary to get the presidency's response? Was it necessary? What do you make of Mr. Adesina's statement?
So Mr. Adesina's statement was very, very simple. Nigeria's GDP has not grown to match its population. That's simply what he's saying. And the presidency's response is to say, well, that doesn't matter because we have better phones, better schools, and better universities. That misses the point.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Kaluja. We'll go on a quick break and try to sort out the technical issues, and then we'll be right back after this. Thank you.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're looking at the statement by the president of the AFDB as well as the presidency's response looking at the nation's GDP. And this morning we're joined by financial affairs analyst Kalu Aja. Once again, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining us. I think our first thoughts with you, our first question to you will be your thoughts on the president of the AFDB statement regarding our GDP, where we are today and how much better it was back then.
Yes, his statement was very simple. That's the AFDB president. The Nigeria's growth has not kept pace with population. That's essentially what he's saying. Population growth is about 3%. GDP has not kept pace. We used to be at 6-7. Now we're doing about below 3%. So you see we've not kept pace. That's all he's saying. I think the response by the president is a bit defensive and misses the mark. They are talking about telecoms, roads, and health. Doesn't address the core point that Mr. Adesina is making, that Nigeria must grow faster than its population to achieve a real output growth for the nation, where we can create jobs and have economic development. So I think both sides are not saying the same thing, but what Mr. Adesina is saying is completely spot on and correct. The numbers might not be right, but the trend of what he's saying is correct.
Have any thoughts regarding what the SSA to the president did say, that he's speaking more like a presidential candidate or a politician? And what's your take on when financial analysts decide to speak on the current administration's challenges in running the economy, but yet get backlash that they are starting to sound political? How would this help the economy grow in your perspective?
It's unnecessarily defensive. Mr. Adesina is the chairman or the CEO of the African Development Bank, right? They just approved for Nigeria $650 million every year for the next 5 years. So how are you sure he didn't make this argument to get this loan? And what he's saying is correct. Nigeria's GDP has not grown to match population. The response should not be, you are talking like a politician. The response should be, oh, okay, we hear you. This is what we're doing to grow the economy. We want to target $1 trillion in the next 5 years, for instance. So you can come back to him with facts. But when you list your response with opinion, with innuendos, and you make everything political, it's a siege mentality. It doesn't bode well. You speak for the government of Nigeria, not a political party, not a person. If you get a response as such, respond back with facts. Tag the person responding to you or give you the issue and say, hey, we hear you. This is what we're doing. We want to get your support. Nigerians are behind us. And you move on. There's no point or there's no need to go there.
And maybe again we should ask if, using the GDP is still a useful metric for measuring the health of a country, especially one where we see that inequality and unemployment is really high.
Well, there are many ways to measure the health of an economy. GDP is one of them, especially GDP per capita. which means the more people you are in a country, then the more you can tax those people, the more those people can produce output, jobs, create things that you can export, right? Nigeria was doing about 6-7% GDP growth in, say, 2015. Then it's crashed. Now we're below 3%. So we can't suddenly stop using GDP per capita because it's now gone down. There are other human development indexes that we can use, right? But the same indices we've used in the past, we can continue to use them. Output is very, very important. Nigeria is targeting a $1 trillion figure for its GDP, the same GDP we're using. So I don't think anything wrong with using output to measure the economy. It just shows us Nigeria, with its huge population, should do more. We've got energy, we've got gas, we've got gold, we've got the diaspora. So much is expected from Nigeria. Benin is doing 6%. Senegal is doing 6%. Cote d'Ivoire is doing 6%. Ethiopia is doing 6%. They're all in Africa. So we should also do better than them because we are the giants of Africa.
Now, looking back at the 60s and 70s, especially after the oil boom, it looks like those were the golden years of Nigeria. Have we missed the train? Is it possible to have a GDP that matches up with population, looking at the enormous challenges we're facing as a country? And what do we need to do to get back on track and see if we can match up with the past? Because I mean, it's you look at other countries, Indonesia, Taiwan, Vietnam, for example. Their past was not so good, and then your future should be better than your past. That's how it is in most societies. So why do we always have to look back, throw back? Oh, I remember when I used to travel to the UK with 100 naira and things like that. We reminisce when we have a present and a future.
Yeah. Well, Nigeria got a lot of money. That's crude, the oil boom. We got a lot of income, but we didn't invest in infrastructure. If you go back to the videos and watch when Lagos was being built, the flyovers were built when there were no cars in Lagos. Have you seen, apart from Abuja, no other city in Nigeria has seen that level of infrastructure development in Nigeria. No other city, right? Look at the roads that we built in the 1970s under the National Development Plans. We haven't done them anymore. The power plants, if you take away the 10 power plants that were built under the NIPP, Nigeria would be in darkness today. So we have not invested in infrastructure that would promote growth. That's the problem. Today, we have no power in Nigeria. You can't grow without power. That's just a basic issue. There's no A1 road, 10-lane expressway going from the south of Nigeria to the north of Nigeria, or from the east of Nigeria to the west of Nigeria. The roads in Lagos stop in Benin, the quote-unquote expressway. It's a 4-lane or 6-lane expressway. The rails, how are rails connected? They're designed for exports. There's no horizontal rail line in Nigeria. That's the problem. It's not the oil per se. It's that we got oil and we did not invest properly. We just got GSM when, So we haven't invested right. And can we get back to a high GDP? Of course. Start to invest in infrastructure, in education, so you grow a new economy apart from crude oil. It's just 5% of our economy, but it's giving us more than 89% of our foreign reserves. So you've got to grow the economy, develop new areas, and then you can then have that growth backed up by infrastructure and investment. You can't grow an economy without power. It's just as simple as that.
Well, I do not know if you've been able to lay your hands on the latest April 2025 poverty and equity brief from the World Bank. There it's mentioned that there's a 75.5%, a staggering 75.5% number of persons in the rural area that are below poverty line. Looking at what the World Bank has said and trying to just oppose it with what we are hearing, that the economy is doing well. I don't know if you're also aware that the president also spoke a few hours ago.
Turned the corner.
Yes, he said the economy has turned the corner. And, his supporters are saying that the economy is doing fantastically well. How do we just oppose these two? The World Bank warning of what's going to happen in the rural area the presidency saying that the economy is doing fantastically well and it's about to
Well,
start
maybe not
yielding,
fantastic.
results.
Fantastic might be pushing it.
Well, I'm going to say fantastic because I mean we do have reports of some of the followers who are saying that the economy is doing well. I mean, if something is
well,
doing
let's leave it at doing well.
Well and turning the corner.
Yeah.
but what's your take, though? Putting it together with the World Bank report and then what we're going through.
That's being positive. I just saw a tweet. Someone said he bought an egg, one single egg, for 300 naira. So if you divide 300 naira by 70,000, which is the minimum wage, how many eggs can a family buy? That's minimum wage in Nigeria. So the economy is not doing well. It can do well, but currently it's not doing well. Everything in Nigeria has gone up in prices, but wages have basically stayed flat. Real wages, when you index it to inflation, we rebased inflation, took away 10 points from inflation. Now inflation is going right back. Food is expensive, there's insecurity. Again, we don't have any power supply. So I would prefer to say we know what the problem is and we want to tackle it than saying we've turned the corner. We haven't turned any corner. There are no jobs in the economy. No Nigerian worker, none, can afford to buy a house in Nigeria, even with a loan. None. There's nobody's income that can afford to get a mortgage in Nigeria and buy a home, unless you're the CEO of something. So how do the kids in Nigeria have a hope in Nigeria that they're going to buy a house or they'll buy a car? How many folks in Nigeria buy brand new cars, not going to them by the company, but they go and buy a brand new car or brand new air conditioner or brand new fridge? So you look at the consumption in Nigeria, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, as of 2022, was negative. So now we're not consuming. That's why you have sachets all over the place. There's half bread, half sachet now, half a loaf of bread that you can buy. So the reality is that Nigeria is not doing well. It can do better if we put our minds to it. But right now, I would say we're just being wishful with that thinking.
And, we often hear this positive macroeconomic data, which does not correspond to the lived reality of the average Nigerian. You just painted the picture of what the truth is. When we started the show this morning, I was complaining I hadn't bought noodles in a long time, and I bought yesterday, and the smallest size, I really shouted, it was 400 naira. I could not believe that what we used to buy for 35 naira is now 400 naira. But in previous interviews, we would hear supporters of the current administration saying that we should not judge the current reality with the pre-Tinubu administration. That instead, a better way to judge the yardstick of growth will be post the announcement of the removal of fuel subsidy and the floating of the naira to what we currently have. Is that a fair metric for comparison? And if we did that, with your perspective about where we currently are, would it be different?
Well, in all honesty, I think the President, Tinubu, was faced with a choice that he simply had just one option. He had to remove subsidies, he had to float the naira because Nigeria simply could not afford anything dollar-based or anything imported. So he was handed over a failed economy. The economy had failed completely to the point that we could not pay for anything until we printed naira. So we printed about 22 trillion naira. If you convert that to dollars, back then at that exchange rate, we printed the equivalent of 50 billion United States dollars, which is more than our foreign reserves. That's amazing. So that's what he was handed over. He had to take all those macro concessions, float the naira, remove subsidies to get income back to the government to spend. So on that point, I sympathize with him. The problem with them is that they haven't acted like a government that is under austerity. We're still borrowing, we're still spending, we're still buying private jets, we still have huge salaries for the National Assembly and ministers. We spend like we're in an oil boom. We're not spending like oil price is now below 60 and our benchmark price is way above 70. That's the problem with Tinubu administration. On policy, they have it right, but on actions, on optics, they fail. And that's why you see people don't really gravitate to what they are saying, because people just don't see them acting out what they are saying. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we have a lot of questions and a lot to dig in, but I want to thank you so much, Mr. Kaloja, for joining us. Hopefully, you will afford us your time again sometime this week. I would like you to join us as we also analyze what the current minimum wage can do for Nigerians in different facets of life. Thank you so much for your time.
That would be interesting. Thank you, sure. I'll be there.
I'm sure it will.
You already know the answer.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. All right. Wow. Anyway.
The current minimum wage, before you go on, can do two things.
What can he do?
Slim and none.
Bigger. I mean,
you know, I think I knew how bad it was, but hearing him put it in context to say 1 egg, 300 naira. How many eggs? I should probably do the math.
Yeah,
how many eggs can, so 70,000 divided by 300. So your salary can buy 233 eggs.
And you know the reality is the satirization of the economy.
Yes, everything is now into little.
You can't buy a bottle of vegetable oil, so the FMCGs are satirizing everything.
You guys are even going.
I heard there was a time they were even selling half two bags of yam.
When we were growing up,
still there.
When we were growing up, we didn't have all these sachet things. You know, there was still a buoyant middle.
You know, they cut pineapples. You know, that's how they cut the yams now in circles.
Oh, the way they cut pineapples.
Yes, they have it like that. It still sells in certain parts.
Wow.
Before we go to our next story, let me just do this little calculation. If the minimum wage is 70,000 naira, the cost of a not a grade 1, at least a grade 2 Tokumbo car or a Corolla goes for 7 million now. Do you know how many months it will take you to save your minimum wage to be able to buy that car?
Without spending anything.
100 months.
Do you know how many people feel like
100 months?
Anyway, you know what? Car is even a luxury. The basics.
100 months.
Unfortunately.
To take you 100.
How many eggs can 70,000?
233 eggs. That's what your monthly salary is worth.
And the human body needs at least one or something.
Can man live by egg alone when you are not from Ghana? Charlie, I'm sorry.
Let's move to the next story. The National Assembly has indeed come out. The National Assembly is out and they've countered the PDP governor's lawsuit over River States. Don't forget that the governors had, the PDP governors had come out to ensure that they, put up a tough fight against the National Assembly concerning the emergency rule. But then again, let's also tell you that they are not just done yet, because the National Assembly has indeed come out in full force. They've indeed, not just telling them that their case has no water, it holds no water. They're also slapping the governors with a staggering 1 billion naira fine, calling their own suit frivolous distraction. Well, joining us now, let's go to legal practitioner Tor Osurovoja, who joins us all the way from the United Kingdom. I hope I'm right that you're still in the UK, or are you in somewhere in Benin, the Benin Kingdom? Or do I say
from his smile, you could tell he's in the UK.
I mean, do I say
Good morning. And I know that our minimum wage can afford more than the 200 eggs, so that's why I'm laughing.
Wow, that's fire.
Very sad.
But it is a reality.
Oof.
At least hourly pay, not even the monthly pay, hourly pay, and our pay can have more than that eggs you're talking about.
This is deep. I think we might also have to add you to that conversation.
This is not exciting at all. It's not exciting.
Yeah, we're about to have that drawing board. We have to add you. But let's narrow down our conversation now to the PDP. What do you make of the fact that number of governors in the People's Democratic Party, I think normally about 11 or so, come together and decide to sue the National Assembly and so on, and then they get counter-sued, and not just that, they are told to pay money for wasting time and bringing up frivolous, suits. What's your take on that?
Well, first of all, I'm not. What happened during the emergency rule was something that nobody is happy about, and some of us will kick against it. Then, secondly, if you look at the provision of the Constitution, you discover that the office holder belongs to the political party per virtue of some provisions of the Constitution and the interpretation of the Supreme Court. Then the other issue we should also look at is the process itself, coming together, PDP governors, as at when the process was filed. Surprisingly, my state governor, which is Delta State, has defected. So obviously, there might be an application to amend that process, or maybe the AG of the state may want to withdraw a participant in that process. When a colleague of mine, a comrade, sent me the originating process, so I've not seen the one for River State, I've not seen the one of the National Assembly. I was a bit concerned based on my knowledge in the law, I was a bit concerned about some of the perceive a foundational error in that process. One, I'll tell you, let me point it out quickly, so that at the tail end of it, if the court decides to go by what we know to be the provision of the law, so that the public will not crucify or sacrifice the court for doing what they ought to have done. One, you could see that the AG of Rivers State is not a party to that suit. And one thing we should know carefully is if the decision goes in affirmative of the PDP governors. Now, can Rivers State, who is not a party, or the legal team of Fubara, by virtue of the AG of Rivers State, can it be executed? That is one. Then two, if you look at the provision of the Constitution, Section 232, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, states it clear, for the Supreme Court to have original jurisdiction over a matter, it must be between the Federation and the state, or the state against the state, whether of law or fact. But bringing in the National Assembly has questioned whether the Supreme Court will have original jurisdiction. Because if you look at the interpretation provision of the Federation, has to do with the Federal Republic of Nigeria by virtue of Section 318 of the Constitution, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And what makes up the Federal Republic of Nigeria? It has to do with the three arms of the federal government, which the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. So any act that ought to be questioned, or let's just say the executive and the legislature, so legislative. So any act that ought to be questioned of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is put in one through the office of the AG of the Federation. So these are some of the questions. So if issue of technicality, comes in now, the Supreme Court, which I believe, with the little knowledge I know about law, may won't question whether the court has jurisdiction over the matter. So to some extent, the National Assembly may be right challenging the process because they're already a party, and they might be of the view that being a party makes the Supreme Court lacks jurisdiction. Then two, for issue of the 1 billion, it is known law that cost comes after an event. So they might have paid their lawyer. So it's at the discretion of the court to award such amount or not. So that is just it.
Wow. Very, very, very insightful there.
Yes, thank you for giving us that legal background to the case. But looking at the social-political makeup of Nigeria, why is it important that the PDP governors have decided to file this lawsuit?
Well, it is important because when there is an abridgment of the law, there must be a redress. Do you understand? So as a matter of fact, I think it was even some of us were worried that it took them time to have even followed up the process or to have instituted the process. And if you look at it carefully, it is PDP governor, but PDP governor forums is not a juristic person or have the local standard. What I mean is that the local standard to question that is, so they come under the office of their Attorney General, which by implication, invoking the power of the states by virtue of Section 232, subsection 1, to enable the Supreme Court address this particular issue. Remember, it's an issue of law. I think misinterpretation or misconception of 305 of the Constitution. So that is very instructive. But how far it could go, to the best of my knowledge, is another thing again. Politically, one, is really not too good politically because by the sole reason, some governors who are not in line, because Nigeria, when a current administration lay a foundation, the next administration will not only extend the foundation, but also roof it and also build a story on it. So you discover that the abridgment of this provision may be constantly done by previous administration. If precedents will be referred to, Tinubu administration did it, so I can do it. And, first of all, we got it under the democratic rule. In the First Republic, then Obasanjo brought it in his own way, which was questioned and fought to the latter in Plateau State. Then Jonathan, who understands and who has the legal officers that guided him well, extended it and interpreted that particular provision when he declared state of emergency in the states that were affected by Boko Haram. That is the reason for that provision. Then bringing it in now, and if you also look at the statement the statement of the FCT minister is really worrisome, because I think at this point in time, everywhere many Democrats and everywhere many politicians who can foresee the future ought to be sober and see way rather than the recon of a consistent train of tantrums and abuses and playing the Lord of the Ring.
All right, and also I want you to talk about what the legal implication, or beyond the political implication of all that has hit the PDP, what it means next for the party, as what will, the party is what we consider, currently they should have been considered as the biggest opposition that we have, but with all the defections, the suspension of the governor in Rivers State, the defections in Delta State, what are the implications of these on the structure of the People's Democratic Party, nationally?
Well, like sometimes when I see a defection, I will ask people, what makes up the APC? What makes up the APC? APC is a combination of the People's Democratic Party, the CPC as at then, and I think the AC, the Action Congress, which is led by the Tinubu administration. So you could see that is a combination of triangular interests. And you could see that maybe at the point of it, because APC should be very careful in the defection that they're having. It's too early for we to predict what will happen, because as time goes on, 24 hours is too long. For 24 hours is a long day in the life of a political circle. So you should look at it first. When the formation of APC came into being, you discover that there is a sharing interest. So this is where the problem will now come. Now the CPC block of the APC, which was Buhari, has become the president of Nigeria. Now, the AC block of the APC is now. So you could see one of the recall in the PDP is the fact that the PDP block now may want to produce the successor of president. And this is where the problem comes in. Before 2027, you will see that there might be infighting in the APC. I'll give an example in Delta State, where I came from. If you look at the political structure of Delta State under the leadership of Ibori, under the leadership of Ibori, you discover that there's what we call rotational. And if that rotation is bridge based on the foundation the governor who not among the Ibori then privilege, it's not among maybe there will be an alteration of that sharing, that zoning formula within the central senatorial district and other senatorial district. That is one. Then two, again, you now discover that the defection, they already had APC strongholds in those states. What now happens between those strongholds and the newly defected? So there will be an infighting. And I will still tell you for free, if PDP can iron out the current articles ambition and see that the presidency for 2027 under the PDP ticket is zoned to the south, is going to cause another imbalance in APC. So I think we have a long way to see, but you will see, just as the defection is coming, you also see counter-defection as time goes on. It's just a matter of the way the emergency rule in Rivers State is getting some of the politicians in balance. But if the Supreme Court, through a proper legal process, can straighten it out, I believe that stability somehow.
When you say counter-defections, what sort of counter-defections are we looking to see?
Okay, the counter-defection is, okay, from a very reliable source, you could see that in Delta State now, they've been, okay, who will become the leader of the APC? Remember, we have the person of Ovioma Agige, who was a deputy senate president and who has been a pioneer member of the APC, who has been member of the APC, though a product of PDP, who benefited the benevolence of PDP into some of his arrests. And we will look at that. We look at other acquired. They have been APC structure. And let's not also forget that there are states that are synonymous. I'll use the word synonymous or likened to a particular political party. Like Lagos State, for example. Lagos State has been a state of the opposition, irrespective of defection or not. There must be a likelihood of, okay, this particular party seems to clinch Lagos State because of the love of the people, natural love of the people. And South has seen the PDP of more of an inbreed of a party than the APC. Apart from the Edo houses, you could look at it carefully. Apart from the Edo houses, it has been a struggle for other political parties to clinch power in the South. I'm talking about the South, apart from Edo State. So now let's look at it from the perspective of what if the interest is not properly shared. Remember, Tinubu will not be looking at it from the South alone because he needs alliance from the North. So the interest will be determined by the body language of the North. Take it or leave it, they also have some political stronghold. And you could see that their body language in one way or the other, they can decide to vote for a particular party in the state and ignore other party at the central, just to prove a point. And I'll tell you for free that the APC should be more concerned with the defection than celebrating. Because primaries are coming, interests will be divided, horse trading will be made in the course of events.
All right. I'm sure we'll be looking forward to see what will happen, and hopefully, just hopefully, we would see the end result, especially with what is going on in the National Assembly. Thank you so much to all for joining us, and thanks for speaking with us this morning here on Breakfast Central. All right, so that's been our conversation for the second hour as we gear up, guys. Looking forward to the final lap, which happens to be the third hour. The front pages of the newspapers is also here. I will look forward to hear from you. Our phone lines are indeed buzzing, and of course they are open. So feel free to interact with us when we bring the front pages to you. But I think this second hour, the conversations has been truly electrifying, eye-opening, catchy, looking at how we had moved from the electrical conversation into the second hour, bringing it into the second hour, and then the economic conversation as well by Kano as well.
And also the exciting, the economics of eggs conversation.
What you call exciting?
Yes, quite exciting. Yes, you're setting a good example by. I mean, Towo did start the conversation.
Did you just say example?
Yeah, example and exciting. It started the conversation by saying, "Look, a daily hourly wage," and I think that's really humbling. Can buy us how many crates? How many eggs in the UK?
Well, what an extraordinary revelation we have had
Very
today.
extraordinary. And
Right.
I can predict what you will have for breakfast.
Actually, what do you think?
Eggs Benedict.
No, yam and eggs.
Okay.
Okay. Enough of all the drama
Director
this
is talking
morning.
to us, but no, let's continue talking about food.
Okay, we'll now go on the break to bring you the news, and when we come back from breakfast headlines, we will then delve into the front pages of the newspapers. But domestic violence in Nigeria cuts across lines of class, religion, and culture, leaving a devastating trail of physical, emotional, and psychological scars. Experts say that it continues to be promoted by a culture of silence, shame, and stigma on victims, as enablers and collaborators are hardly brought to justice. News Central's correspondent Aisha Salihu brings us the story of a survivor, her experiences, and her battle to move on from the scourge.
My ex-husband, 22 years ago, he stabbed me with a knife close to my heart. I could have shown it to you now. I also have a bottle stab at the side of my face here. This place. He smashed my head with a star bottle. The broken pieces remaining in his hand, he stabbed me near my face here. Look at my face, look at my eye. It was a narrow escape. It could have rendered me one-eyed woman.
This is the story of many in Nigeria, as domestic violence has become an all too familiar trend. While it takes several formats and can be categorized as physical, sexual, and emotional forms, some describe it as a pattern of coercive control where one person seeks power over another. And
if you don't resolve it, the other person who has the power, because actually violence is power play. The one that has the upper hand is going to take charge and believe that dealing with the other person, maybe slapping, punching, pulling of hair, isolation, whatever it is going to make sure that person fears or respects him.
The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015 provides a legal framework for the prevention of and protection from violence in Nigeria. It prohibits all forms of violence, including domestic violence, and provides for sanctions against perpetrators.
So, what the agency does is, number one, enlighten the society on the existence of these acts, and then make known to the public the punishments for offenses that are committed. Sometimes you find people saying, oh, I don't know, this is an offense. Ignorance in law is not an excuse.
But beyond government agencies, non-governmental organizations play a crucial role in providing support and advocating for change.
Our advice those concerned that are being traumatized that you should take a bold step and walk away instead of them to die in silence. Let them come out of it. And when you come out of it, have something doing. Don't rely on men.
In a society where cultural and religious beliefs often play a significant role, it is important to address the issue from all angles.
Pray before we go in, and when the going gets tough, we also pray and be calm. And when the going becomes threatening, life-threatening, then we quit very, very amicably.
The survivor's journey is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
I've decided to hate men. I run away. I've remained single since 2018 because of this man. I don't have a relationship. I don't trust in any man. I am on my own.
Domestic violence thrives in silence. Experts say domestication and implementation of the VAP Act of 2015 across all states in the country, collaboration between government, NGOs, religious institutions, communities, and individuals are measures needed to break the silence, support survivors, and hold perpetrators accountable. In Abuja for News Central, Aishat Salihu.
Such a heart-wrenching report of what the current reality is for many people, many women across the country. Joe and Benga, to see that last woman there share her experience, saying she can never trust any man again because of what has been done to her. It's really sad.
I mean, it starts once, and once you tolerate these things, it empowers it develops into more violence. So once you see signs of this, it's better you raise the alarm and, do something about it.
We live in a
men
society,
need to do better too.
Yeah, I mean, we also live in a society that is fully enlightened now. I mean, gone are the days, if you go back then, I'm talking about from possibly the 80s, early 90s, there was this form of, there was this shame that came with it.
I don't agree with you. We're not fully enlightened at all.
You're speaking from your perspective.
Whether you like it or not.
You will say maybe we've made progress, but we're not fully enlightened at all.
We've made progress. We've made progress.
I was just having a conversation with a friend yesterday, somebody who was in an abusive marriage, and the person was saying that the family were the ones telling this person, stay behind, just make you work, and that this person got grief from close family members. They were calling every day to rain insult because this person had decided to prioritize the person's life and leave.
So I would rather say that falls on choice. That's the person's choice. But when I say we've made progress, I was simply saying that what we know now with the advent of social media, with reports like this, is beaming more light on the situation. So people are aware. You can't say that. At least there's a huge percentage that are now aware of domestic violence, and companies like NAPTIP and the likes, we saw so many of them. There are even private ones that were not available then, but we have them now. And I like the fact that they're all singing a similar song, telling you, don't stay there so that you do not die. My point is, are we aware? Are people aware? Are abusers aware? are, you know, those who go through these abuses, are they aware as well? The answer is yes. Maybe in rural areas, I would say it's
so what is the challenge then? If you
the challenge is now they have to fight cultural, you know, stereotype, which is, should I leave or should I, like what you just said now, that is fixated in our culture. Don't leave, what will people say? It falls under that. You can see shame. If I leave, they will say, oh, look at that lady. She used to be married before.
Because people actually still shame.
Yeah, they do. I agree with you. But like I said, that's why I said it's a choice. You now have to choose if I want to stay and die or I want to leave.
But it's still never easy. There are elements in society, and as long as human beings are human beings, you would always have people that will tell you, you know, just endure, no marriage is easy, and all those kind of rubbish talk that would end up killing the victim. So I just think we need to deal more with the ones that are perpetrating this evil acts. We need to beam the law on them. We need to focus on them to stop this, because what manner of provocation would lead you to stab someone? This woman should have been dead a long time ago.
Yes, she stabbed near the heart.
Near the heart, and then she could have lost her eye. It's just mere luck, and because of that, she's stigmatized for life. She has post-traumatic stress disorder. She's saying she can't date. She doesn't even want to be around. She hates men, and this is just one of thousands of people that have similar stories.
Again, I would say that as society, we have a responsibility in many ways, and part of the responsibility, again, is to continue to have conversations about this, because the awareness will never be enough. The more we talk about it, the more people realize that they have an option and they have an option to leave. We must also try to continue to spotlight organizations that help people in abusive relationships get help. Help in terms of therapy, setting them up, having shelters, and then getting justice from them, you know, for them from the abusers. Also, as a society, we need to call out bad behavior. There are many people who will tell you that they hear in the night when their neighbors are fighting and one person is beating the other person. But we have a culture of everybody, mind your business, go about your duty, don't put mouth. Many men need to start to call out other men for their bad behavior.
I agree with you.
We need to say, no, that's not allowed. You know, you can't look the other way.
Yeah.
As a landlord, if I have a property and I'm hearing that there's a couple that is fighting every time and that the husband is beaten, I will call law enforcement agencies for you. I'll call the police on you.
You resolve your
domestic violence. You are not going to do your domestic violence wahala in my house. You take it out of my house. I will time it. I will call the law enforcement agencies on you, and if you continue, I'll give you quick notice. We need to employ a lot more radical measures to ensure.
Yeah, because it will graduate to unaliving the other party.
It starts with a random slap. From a random slap, it now starts to deteriorate into more things. There's the physical abuse, there's the social, emotional abuse that you can't even see the effect. Have you not heard of people that say, women that say they don't have accounts? Why? They're working, they're collecting salary into their husband's account.
Or the ones that throw the food away and say it's too salty, you didn't put salt. Or the ones that eat outside in side check house and say they are full.
This conversation will not end. This conversation is one that I think we just have to continue spotlighting it and letting people know that.
And then have a register for public offenders.
They have. So coincidentally,
yes,
yes.
But beyond just rape, like domestic violence, so that if a person, for example, the man that stabbed that woman by the heart,
we need to know he needs to be popular.
When he tries to get a job, they will run his name, you know, through the register and see. When you have such history, you know that you can't get a job again.
And
so by the time you understand that they are grave,
teachers. Imagine that
kind of person being a teacher. When you understand that there are grave implications, there are certain things you will not do. Again, our society is riddled with lack of impunity. It's why politicians will do some of the things they do, knowing that they can get away with it. They can manipulate the loopholes in the system for their own gain. So by the time we start to put strong punitive measures, we'll reduce a number of these incidences.
But anyway.
Okay, let's take a break. When we return, we'll tell you what's happening in the news. Stay with us. It'll be breakfast headlines shortly.
Welcome back. Time for the front pages of the papers. Don't forget, you can start calling now. You find the number right there on the screen. And you can be part of the conversation, especially if you want to talk about anything that we've had a conversation on right from the start of the show. 3 hours counting down to the end. We do have Ikechukwu Amechi joining us this morning to join the front page analysis. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope we talked about eggs today. I don't know when last you bought a crate of egg, and how was it? Was it very affordable, you know?
Yeah. Well, I don't go to the market, unfortunately, so it is my wife that will answer that.
Oh,
okay. You just take part in the eating of the things that come from the market.
We hear that one egg costs 300 naira now. I cannot confirm, but that's the report that we hear. I only know that noodles,
between 250 and
the smallest pack of noodles costs 400 naira. So meaning that your minimum wage can buy you, like with eggs, 233
But Mr. President said the economy has turned the corner.
Average breakfast for a family of, let's say, 4 won't cost you anything less than perhaps 5 to 10,000. Is that bad? So when people are lamenting that things are hard, that things are difficult, they are not. They're not crying wolf. It's just true that many people, their take-home package cannot take them home, realistically.
When your take-home cannot take you home, then where does it take you to? Well, we don't know. Anyway, you can call in and let's start the conversation. We're going to go straight to,
I think we should start with the Tribune.
Yes,
that's you see stories here.
Go ahead.
On the Tribune. Federal Executive Council, taking a cue from Donald Trump, okays Nigeria's first economic policy to prioritize local industry. Bans unjustified imports. I wonder the things they classify as unjustified imports. Executive order coming to back up this initiative. Donald Trump has influenced them. They say, look, Nigeria first. And they might say, you know, solar panels. There's an industry in Nigeria that can produce solar panels, even though you can't meet up with the demand. So ban this. And if you're going to import more revenue, you know, customs.
What about cars? Are they going to ban cars too?
Yes, there's Innocent. Why can't you use Innocent and not? Even though they don't produce enough to take care of the market. But we are very happy to celebrate. You know, we've turned JAM everything WAC to revenue generating institutions. We'll celebrate, JAM made X billion amount of money. But look at the numbers that came out.
That came out failing.
Yes, a huge percentage failed. So these days, I'm even afraid of buying JAM forms for people, because at the end of the day, are you going to pass? It's not to write it. You pass it, or do we drop the standards? Is 200 too high a number? But let's start with that first before we touch on other stories. So, Mr. Amechi, they say we should look inwards, and that the only way to, you know, get out of this conundrum is to, you know, patronize Nigerian products, buy Naira, buy Nigerian to grow the Naira. We've heard buzzwords like that. Is the presidency putting the cart before the horse?
At least my own outfit from head to toe is purely Nigeria.
Wow. Are you sure?
Yes.
The fabric itself?
Yes, the fabric.
Well, what about the hair?
Made in Nigeria, sold by a Nigerian brand.
Okay.
Well, on the first value, this renewed hope, Nigeria first policy, we can say it is a good one. Because, you know, we have all said that the only way Nigeria can get out of this economic mess we are in today is we transit from consumption to production. Nigeria must become a producing nation if we are going to make any headway economically. So whether it is an idea borrowed from the Trump playbook of America first, now it is Nigeria first. It's a good idea, but that's on paper. Implementation, where do we start from? Look, it must not be selective, and it must not again be targeted against the economically marginalized Nigerians, as we are wont to do in this country. The president is importing beef as part of his motorcade. Perhaps another policy borrowed from the U.S. now president. We saw a minister the other day who went to a function
in a Rolls Royce.
In a Rolls Royce. Do you know how many billions of dollars we spend every 4 years importing all the state-of-the-art jeeps from Japan for the lawmakers, for ministers, everybody, even local government chairmen, even councillors. Everybody is now entitled to ride Prado jeeps, ride all the costless cars. And you know the number of jobs we create for the Japanese in their economy by the mere fact that we continue importing these things. Now, do you know of any American leader who rides any car not produced in America? Even India.
Even Malaysia, they use Proton, Perdana, the Prime
They
Minister.
use cars produced locally. Now we have car manufacturers like Innocent and all that. Could you imagine what will happen if part of this Nigeria First policy is that when the president is signing the executive order, if it is prepared by the Attorney General and Minister of Justice tomorrow, part of the proclamation will be no more importation of cars for government officials. Innocent. These are the specifications we want, and you must produce to such specifications.
What if they are
leading by example?
Yes, but they might argue that that's what they're trying to do in the solar industry, for example, to ensure that they boost local manufacturing. Is that not a first step in the right direction?
If that is what they are doing in the solar, this is fine and good. All I'm saying is that there must be production, and that you don't cherry pick. You don't have a president who all he wears from head to toe, shoes, everything, are imported things. The food he eats, the toothpick you have in Asorok are all imported, and you are there pontificating about Nigeria first. That is a good idea. We must go back to production. That's the only way we can climb out of this economic moral. But that it must be all-encompassing. It shouldn't be one thing. People are importing Rolls Royce, and how do you now expect the innocence of this world to grow their businesses?
Do we have the enabling environment to encourage production? You look at Nigerian Manufacturers Association, they're always complaining every day. You can't industrialize off the back of generators. You can't have a massive production base if you don't have the basics like electricity. So some feel, you know, provide this. They feel the government policy is putting the cart before the horse. Provide the enabling environment, then you can start all
part
this.
Part of that
import
policy,
substitution. Yes,
exactly. Part of that policy should also be government taking deliberate effort to provide the enabling environment, like you said. I think it was about 2 weeks here or so that we were discussing a story in the Punch that the power situation in the country has created an economy, a generator economy that runs into 1.something trillion, because people are looking for alternative sources of power. They are buying generators, they are going into solar and all that. If you also don't solve the problem of insecurity, you can't get investors. You can't get people to come and invest in your economy to start producing, to start manufacturing. So it's a whole value chain of things to do. You don't just wake up in the morning and say, Nigeria first, and everybody must use first goods made in Nigeria. The truth of the matter is that there must be an enabling environment to start producing those goods in the first place. So I agree with you. I agree with you that we have to look at the whole thing holistically. What are those factors that are inhibiting production in the country? And you take them on, and then all I'm saying is that that policy must be all-encompassing. It must not be that the luxury goods enjoyed by the elites are excluded. It is only those ones that are going to be enjoyed by the poor people that they will not say it must be this. Let it be this. It might not be easy initially, but that is how every other country that has developed, whether it is China, whether it is India, whether it is this thing, countries can't develop unless they develop the culture of production. You can't develop by consuming, spending money you don't have in importation, waves of importation, even things you have the capacity to produce locally.
All right, let's take a look at another newspaper very quickly, even though we've looked at the Tribune. All right, let's stick with the Tribune. 2027, Atiku still weighing options, may not quit PDP. Plans last-minute rescue efforts to save party. That's what the source says. Wike Fubara field, tax reform bills, constitution review, insecurity top agenda as NAS reconvenes. Let's start off with Atiku, not quitting, looking forward to 2027.
Can the PDP still be saved?
Well, the PDP crisis, if you ask me, is tricky, and part of what is causing the crisis in the PDP is Atiku and his ambition. If Atiku is still insisting on running for the presidency in 2027, and his body language suggests that crisis in PDP, and of course don't forget that the crisis started again in 2023 when Atiku hijacked, contrary to the unwritten law that the presidency should alternate between the North and the South, in which case Muhammad Buhari had served 8 years in Northern from Katsina State, and therefore that PDP should have zoned its presidency to the South. It was when Atiku refused and took the ticket that Wike and co started with the problem. And I tell people that the greatest value that Wike brings to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's governance table is that he is positioned there to hold down the PDP. That's the assignment.
And that's what it is.
That's the assignment Wike is doing, and he will continue to do that as long as Atiku is insisting that he's going to run for the presidency. So I don't see how he can pull PDP back from the brink without reconsidering his ambition. If at the end of the day he's able to say, okay, why don't we support, if the idea is to upstage President Bola Tinubu in 2027, Atiku's candidacy will only unite Southerners. Even those that don't like Tinubu will say, instead of going back to the North, let it remain with the devil that we know in the South. So, does he want a PDP that is rebuilt, that is renewed? The ball is in his court, and the decision he takes going forward concerning the 2027 elections will go a long way in determining how far the PDP can go in extricating itself out of this morass.
All right. I mean, one can't really tell what the next steps will be for the PDP, what their chances are, and if, like you said, an article candidacy is not a good look for the People's Democratic Party. But I want us to go to the New Telegraph. On the front page of the New Telegraph, there's a big story there. Senate moves to reconcile stakeholders in Rivers crisis as National Assembly urges Supreme Court to dismiss PDP's suit and seeks 1 billion naira damages. Now, I'm bringing this story because just yesterday when we talked about the women, the Rivers women who staged a walkout from the empowerment program organized or hosted by the First Lady and represented by the wife of the sole administrator, they walked out because they said they did not recognize the sole administrator's wife and who is she, why she, in what capacity is she addressing the Rivers women. Whilst addressing that and apologizing to the First Lady, former Governor Nyesom Wike said a number of things, basically inferring that they said they want peace, yet this is what they are doing. They are basically inferring that FUBARA is behind the walkout. So do you see the reconciliation of these stakeholders ever happening in Rivers State? Because
or are the efforts even genuine?
Yes.
What will the nature of this reconciliation be? What does reconciliation in the Rivers case amount to? That is what bothers me. Reconciliation in Rivers, does it mean a FUBARA being just there in name as governor without exercising real powers of the governor, which is what Nyesom Wike wants. Nyesom Wike wants the structure. Nyesom Wike wants to be in Abuja and calling the shots in Rivers State. Nyesom Wike wants a situation where FUBARA prepares the budget and takes it to Abuja for Nyesom Wike to approve.
Okay.
And then, so what does this reconciliation mean? Is it to tell Wike, look, you are you have had your time for 8 years as governor of Rivers State,
yeah.
and you are now the minister of the Federal Capital Territory. Allow the man who has been elected to do his work. If that is what reconciliation means, now fine and good, but will Wike agree to such a reconciliation?
Well, that's
because at the end of the day, we are going to create peace of the graveyard. Okay, reconcile. On what basis are you going to reconcile? What are going to be the terms? Don't forget that the president had initially called the two of them together. They signed agreements, which
they reneged.
FUBARA went back to Rivers and withdrew the cases, which was part of the withdrew the cases in court. Wike went behind, and the cases that were instituted by his minions in the State House of Assembly, none of them
withdrew them. Sorry, let's take this call.
Was withdrawn.
Let's take this call. Michael calling from Delta State. Good morning, Michael. Hello, Michael.
Good morning, Mike.
All right.
Okay.
And, you know, we must be careful of legitimatizing this Godfather syndrome, where people are beginning to carve out empires now for themselves.
And the governors are almost helpless.
Governors are almost helpless. That President Bola Tinubu has been able to do it successfully in Lagos since 1999 does not mean that any other person that can do that.
It's dysfunctional.
It's a very dysfunctional way of running a so-called democracy.
All right, let's quickly take the call. We've been able to reconnect with Michael. Good morning, Michael. Thanks for calling from Delta. Please go ahead with your comment. Hello, Michael. Are you with us? All right, seems that we're having a challenge.
Okay. There's another story, I believe, here that says it's about the UTME, concerns over UTME, and I think it's very important we highlight this educational story. Concerns, I think, is on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
It's still on the New Telegraph as well. Mass failure.
Mass failure I mean, according to JAM, over 1.5 million candidates scored less than 200 in 2025 UTME. The breakdown offers a full picture. According to JAM, candidates who sat for the UTME examination, 1.5 million of them scored less than 200. However, it's announced that 4,556 candidates scored above. I mean, the big story here is 500,000 in 2 million, in almost 2 million. I didn't get up to 200 cut-off mark. Where lies the problem? Is it social media? Is it the candidates? Is it the teachers? Is it because, I mean, we need to have a post-mortem. This is a serious crisis that is happening. What exactly is the issue here?
It's troubling, but of course it's a basket of problems that we have in the education sector. I don't want to believe that Nigerian students are no longer intelligent. No. I don't also want to believe. Are
they distracted? We hear things like education is a scam.
It is not a question of distraction. Like I said, it's a potpourri of problems that we have in the education sector. And isolating it, saying it is because the students are no longer reading, because the students are distracted, the social media did not come today. So the students were distracted last year as much as we are distracted this year, but we had a better result last year. We can't also, look.
All right, sorry to call in. I think we have Jerry from Delta. Jerry.
I believe that Jerry has moved. I think we've disconnected from Jerry.
Okay.
Or we've lost that call.
JAM has, for some years now, reverted to this CBT, computer-based test in conducting their exams. But we have to also ask ourselves, how many of these students, it is a different thing 2 weeks or so to the distance, you conduct mock exams where you now subject these students to what it is like to use computer. But have you gone to the secondary schools in the villages? There are some secondary schools where the students have not even seen a computer before, not to talk of touching one.
Let me not even shock you. Why can NECO are now suggesting that they should embrace CBT by 2026?
Yes, yes. Whereas there are some schools that have not seen computer before, students have not seen computer before. That is a problem. You must digitalize secondary schools so that these kids will be conversant with computer before you subject them to exams.
With that same model.
The other thing I also learned is that these exams for JAB this year, that it was set outside the syllabus that the students
did not prepare for.
Wow. I had somebody saying yesterday that the daughter said that she went through JAM past question papers in the last 5 years as part of preparation for this exam. Said no question that came out of that decision. So what syllabus did JAM use? Were the students prepared alongside the syllabus and the exams that were set for them? Because I don't want to believe 75% is rather mass failure.
So what happens to the 1.5 million people that want to get admission into Nigerian universities and didn't meet up with the 200 score? Would they go and study Yoruba, or I don't know? What's their fate?
It is not a question of going to study Yoruba. We should not lower the standard. But the question you've just asked, this cannot be a fault of the students. We must locate where the fault is. Is it in terms of the teaching?
Maybe the syllabus, like you...
Is it in terms of the instructional materials, the syllabus, or even JAMB itself? Because you can't... I think somehow also, the JAMB is beginning to prioritize how much money they need to federal government coffers over and above the interests of Nigerian students that have been subjected to all this manner of these things. I don't want to believe, despite all that I said about distractions, about social media, I don't want to believe that the problem lies exclusively that Nigerian students are no longer reading. These children are still intelligent. It is something that should engender a very big discussion as per what is going on in our education system, and to what extent has the government itself. I think this should provide an opportunity for a wider discussion. What has the APC government in the last 10 years done to deepen our education, to make our education more robust than they make it? If this is anything to go by, if this result is anything to go by, then somebody can safely say that education is in decline under a government that says it is revamping education. So how are you revamping education when 75% of your people are failing in exams? So something drastic must be done. We must come, look, this should warrant the declaration of a state of emergency
on education.
So that people can now go back, the think tanks will come and sit down and look at, are we getting it right when it comes to education in this country? It should call for very, very sober reflection, and action must be taken, not to blame. This should not be a blame game, but something went fundamentally wrong in a situation where 75% of the students did not make up to 200. What is the problem? If we identify what the problem is, then that will be the beginning of our attempt to climb out of this ditch.
You can imagine. Well, let's take our very last part in the paper. Let's go to the Punch. There's one story there. It says revenue collection inefficiencies cost power firms 965 billion naira. I'm sure you're aware that there's a new tariff coming. I don't know what your take is. Major petrol diesel price cuts expected over crude slump.
Major. I hope it's not 20 naira major.
It's major.
I want it to be slashed by at least 300 naira.
Okay.
I like how you're dreaming.
I like that.
My car, I drive a V8 engine. It does. It's a fuel guzzler, so you can understand my passion.
Okay, so let's take that revenue collection inefficiencies cost power firms 965 billion naira, and then the new tariff that's coming. What's your take on that?
If you meter power consumers, I don't see how inefficiency will come in. Because is it not what you pay for that you consume? And that is, look, it is when you go into estimated billing. In any case, it is government parastatals. Even Asorok was owing PACN. So they should solve their problems themselves. Whether they want to increase the tariff or not, they should also. A country that is looking at production cannot continue making energy unaffordable to manufacturers. It is antithetical to the fact that you are claiming that you want to produce, and the major factor that continues to push up the cost of production, which is energy, you are still increasing the tariff by the day. At the end of the day, let them continue. They may find out that they have continued to raise this thing to the extent that no Nigerian, right now, every Nigerian that can afford it has gone solar. They have taken themselves off national grid. So time will come when PSN will produce this power and they will consume it.
I mean, our guest was telling us that some manufacturers, even that they have independent power sources, they're not, they're off grid, because this is, it's almost like extortion.
Yes.
Nigerians have paid up to, I mean, I can't pay anymore for power.
I can't.
My entire existence is not to pay for power. We have other needs.
There is nobody, particularly if you're unlucky to be in the so-called band A, that you have enough money. Look, if Asorok is complaining, if Deputy Governor of Lagos State is complaining, if a minister, I met a former minister I visited in Abuja last month, is complaining, then what about the ordinary man on the street? How is it that people are being given, people pay as much as 500,000, 400,000 every month on electricity bill? No, it doesn't make sense. Let them continue increasing the tariff. It will get to a stage where Nigerians will continue, will start living in darkness, or people will go off.
I mean, you might just end up like the borehole system, because no one is expecting pipe-borne water in Nigeria today. We used to have pipe-borne water. People have made their alternative plans. It might just be maybe Mr. Adelabu's house will be the only one connected to the national grid.
In the last 2 years, no value has been added to the power sector. All that we hear is tariff.
More money.
More money, more money. If you pay more, you will get investors. Where are those investors that were promised when this new tariff was increased from 66 naira to 200 naira?
They are coming.
So, where are they?
They didn't come.
They are on their way.
Yesterday,
let's be patient.
What of the Siemens deal? What has happened to the Siemens deal?
The Siemens deal that was signed by President Buhari and then was re-signed again by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
You know, people take us for granted. We were here when the Mele Kyari and his people told us,
all the refineries are working.
Port Harcourt refinery has come back on stream. Warri refinery, Kaduna refinery. Today, what do we have?
In the words of the great Fino, he said, Ogemegi Vumnaya, that is going to do you like a dream.
Today, what do we have?
He's not producing petrol, the refinery is producing petroleum jelly.
Look, this country, they are taking everybody for granted.
They are taking the mick.
And unless and until Nigerians, in unison, rise up and say, enough is enough, nothing will change.
All right. But for us here, we have to exit the studio so we can change things around for another show to come up. But thank you so much for joining us. It's not really been the most pleasant way to start and end the show. We started ranting, we're ending the show ranting. We're trying to find things to laugh about in between the show. Because it's not...
Do things that will make us celebrate.
No, we want to be able to say, oh, the government has done fantastic. We're so excited. The Naira has appreciated. This morning in the papers, Naira has depreciated. It's bad news upon bad news. But we hope to be able to bring better news when we return tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Amechi, for joining us as always.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back again tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of the day. I am Olive MOD.
Dan Johansson, thanking you for watching.
And I'm Benga Bora. Don't do what we wouldn't do.